It's Ben Austin for Fag website interviewing Amanda Coulson from the director of Volta Art Fair. Hi Amanda, how is it going?
Hello, it's going very well, thank you.
Terrific, congratulations, the fair looks fantastic.
Thanks, I'm very happy with it.
Terrific, can you just tell us a little bit background to Volta, how and why the fair was set up?
In New York specifically?
Or the original, how it all came about?
The original one in Basel was really a response to a situation which existed at the time, which was that there was the main fair, which was super high-end, very high quality, and with the expansion of the art market, people that might have been graduating into the main fair were not getting in because of Chinese galleries and Australian, all kinds of new markets that were expanding, and so a lot of people were getting in. So there was sort of a pool of people that were too old for Liston, which was the young art fair, and there's an age limit to how old the artist can be. And so there were a lot of feelings, which was just that, is there an age limit on creativity? Also, is there a pool of dealers that are not being represented that should be? And that was really the reason. There are a lot of galleries that are what we call mother galleries who work with the artist from the beginning and bring them up. And quite often what happens is that artist becoming known will be picked up by a gallery at the main fair. And the artist will go on to exhibit at the main fair, but the gallery won't, for whatever reason, good or bad. And I felt that there was a reason they should have a platform. So that's how Basel started.
Terrific. And
New York was a different thing.
That's a whole different story. So, obviously the success of Basel brought you to New York, and we're now in how many years?
This was our 4th year in New York. It will be our 7th year in Basel. So yes, the Basel success then brought us the attention of other people, and we were invited to come to New York and do the fair here. And I at first was skeptical about that and thought it would be a bad idea because there were other fairs already. There was Pulse, there was Scope. And I really wanted, again, in Basel, we felt we responded to a requirement or a niche in the market. So I thought I really only wanted to go somewhere where there was a point to be there. So everyone says, why doesn't Volta go to Miami? Well, there's just no point, so we're not going. But then I thought about it a bit harder, and I thought, well, what could we offer the Armory as their partner that they don't offer? And so I came up with a solo project idea. So it was, of course, a bit like Statements in Basel. And I thought, we'll just do something completely different to what's happening at all the other satellite fairs. And we'll offer only these very focused booths. And so it does create a completely different fair. So in the end, I think it was very successful, and it has its own identity and brand. And here we are, 4 years later.
Fantastic. And just briefly tell me about the selection process for galleries. If I'm an emerging gallery, what would I need to do to get into Volta? And who's on the board? What's the criteria? What's the selection process?
The criteria are, mother galleries first of all. So we do have galleries that apply with an amazing artist list, but it's not their artist, it's some other gallery's artist that the other gallery worked with for 3 or 4 years first. And so we do try to kind of do that research. We think that's very important. At the statement section this year, there were artists that were being given solo presentation on the Basel platform by galleries that did not discover them or had even not had a solo show with that artist yet. And meanwhile, the gallery that actually discovered that artist, built that artist up to the point that they might get a statement, wasn't there. So, we really try to respect the mother gallery. So there's that, and then there's also, we want to discover things, so I also get people that apply with very well-known art that's very good, and they might not get in, and they say, well, why not? This artist is so, and I say, well, because we want Volta to be discovery. So there's that. In New York, it's more of a kind of dictatorship, and I sort of do it myself with some consultation with other people. But in Basel, we have a board, and we have a board of curators, and that's also, I think, a very important thing to get across. We don't have other galleries. And I do think the choosing galleries does often cause quite a conflict. And it's not necessarily that it's wrong, but it's a different way to do it. So we use the curators, so the curators really look at the applications, and sometimes I don't even let them know who the gallery is. We look at the applications, we look at the artist's work before then knowing who the gallery is and who the city is, because we don't want to judge it on the name. Quite often people look at a list and they say, oh, it's going to be a good fair, it's going to be a bad fair. And I say, how do you know till you've been to the fair?
And that sounds very interesting. And tell me, the solo presentation, you touched briefly upon it. Why is that a stipulation? And what benefit do you think it is to the exhibitor and even to the collector to have a solo presentation in the fair?
I think it's a stipulation. In the beginning, it was a stipulation only to give Volta a very clear identity in New York and to separate us from the other fairs. But as it was also the idea, because I saw already in Basel where we tried to curate the booth down to a very minimal show, we always tried, even in Basel, to say, listen, don't just bring one of every artist you represent. it's got to be a show. It's got to be like a show in the gallery. It's not just like one of everything. And so we stripped that down further for New York, and I think the benefit for the collector and for the, especially for the artist and for the dealer, is that you can go much deeper into somebody's work, and you can get a much more intense connection with the work by seeing several pieces and understanding an oeuvre than to just be getting like one random piece and then a bunch of JPEGs. And I think because of the solo format, artists are often here, so people have a lot of interaction with the actual artist. So I've had people say it's like doing studio visits. It's like just doing 80 studio visits. So I think there's a benefit. There's a risk for the dealer, of course. You know, dealers want that. They quite often are a bit, I'm not sure, solo, well, if I could bring 2 or 3. And I do sometimes have to convince them. But again, if somebody sees a really strong solo presentation, they're going to want to know the rest of your program. You will then make that connection with the person, and you will be able to discuss the rest of your program. So I think it makes a much stronger statement.
Great. And finally, your involvement with art, with David Green and art projects, the allowing having the film program. How important is that to Volta ongoing? Is to have an opportunity for artists to show film work in a different context rather than in a booth?
Well, I think it's really important. I think video is one of the things that's really, really hard to show at a fair, and video and film, because of course people have a limited amount of time, they've got a limited attention span. It's also the dynamic of the fair. You're standing in someone's booth, there's people jostling you around, there might be one little bench that gets crowded, so it's just not the best viewing experience. I think what David Grin does is so important for the artists, that people, you know, give the piece the respect of going and sitting down in a chair and being comfortable, let's face it,
right,
and being in a darkened room and seeing something in the appropriate conditions. So I think it's great for the dealers because it allows them to free up their booth. So some of our dealers here are showing a different artist at the art projects than they are here, so that's good for them. At the Armory, maybe they've freed up some more wall space for some paintings, and they've got the video going on art projects. So I think it's sort of a win-win, and I think it's just, again, it's respect to the artist.
Great. And finally, the future of Volta. You sort of touched upon saying you're not going to go to Miami. Is that a definite, or what about London and coinciding with Frieze? Is that a possibility, or
well,
even
you know,
the Far
London
East?
was really tempting last year. When we heard Zoo wasn't going to happen, we were like, oh my god, we've got to jump on that. But, you know, again, you have to, first of all, you need to plan things properly. So, you know, you always need a couple of years to really think about something. So, there's that. I mean, London could be interesting, but, you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm happy having a European fair. We have a European fair, we have an American fair. That seems like quite enough already, and there's a lot of fairs, so I think to really open another one, you have to think very seriously about what your clients can afford,
sure,
how many times they can be on a certain platform, how much the artist can produce. So it's certainly tempting to want to open another Volta, and you know, we've tossed around ideas. My parent company is opening a big fair in Los Angeles at the end of September.
Oh, terrific. What's
so,
that
the Los Angeles Contemporary platform. And of course, there's, you know, I've always thought Los Angeles was an extremely interesting place, and there's a lot of art production going on there. It's sort of, you know, so that could be an option, but I'd like to see how the main fair develops as its own brand, because as a satellite, you need a strong main brand. No one's going to fly to Basel and need to see Volta.
Yeah, of course.
So Los Angeles could be an option. I think Asia could be very interesting, but when the market there is like ready for what we're bringing, which again would probably need a few more years, because now they want known brand names.
Of course.
I think maybe we need to wait a bit for the taste to develop and the collectors to be more confident to make choices for emerging artists. So I think there's options that could be interesting, but again, I feel very strongly that it needs to be a need of the city for us to come.
Of course. Well, great. Thank you so much for your time, Amanda. It's been and congratulations again. It's a fantastic looking fair, and I wish you all the great success for the future of Volta.
Thank you so much.
My
it was
pleasure.
so nice to sit down with you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. Okay, definitely.